Hello, everyone. and Welcome back to a Clio Talk. We've had a little bit of a gap. We forgot to do some planning for episodes. So here we are with another Clio Talk.
It's okay.
It's okay. Someone had a cross-country road trip, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went out to Maine from Kansas City. It took 24 hours on the road. Some beautiful country, some heavy construction, some rain. People in New York do not know how to drive.
They do not.
Rainy road, mountain road, 35 miles an hour, getting tailgated. Like, they're trying to run me off the road. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's been raining all day. I'm not going to go 55 miles an hour and go off a cliff.
Man. So, let's start first with your review of Ohio.
It's all right. I don't know.
Well, you went to like an arcade bar there.
It wasn't an arcade bar. It was just a regular bar. Where they served beer, and they had a mango seltzer that was not particularly good, but my fiance said that she enjoyed some of the beers they had. And I did drink one of them because she got a flight, so it was the little shot glasses, and it was okay. I don't like beer.
And did you take the northern route or the southern route across Pennsylvania?
We took the middle route,
Mm.
so we kind of just drove through forest and mountains for a while until we popped up like probably 150, 200 miles north of New York City. I think we took like 84 or something the whole way across.
Did you go to a Sheetz?
Did not. Saw a lot of ads for them. Didn't end up going to one.
You didn't go to a Sheetz or a Wawa?
I didn't see a Wawa like at all once. And then the one time we did stop for gas, there wasn't a Sheetz anywhere. So, also we were going to Sam's Club because gas was like $3.75, but then you go to Sam's and it's like $3.50, and I think that that's worth not going to a Sheetz because it's just knockoff Quick Trip anyways.
Yeah.
Fight me.
No. I mean, like, I rep Quick Trip just as much as you do.
Oh no, I know. Wearing your Quick Trip jacket today, even though you haven't worked there in like 3 years.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and tell people my former employer 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And you were a menace at a bunch of different major events.
Yeah, I got up to Maine, deposited the fiance at her job in undisclosed location in Maine, and then I flew back to KC by way of DC, and I had a 12-hour layover. So I hit all the sites. I went to the White House after getting lost on the metro. I was standing outside the White House. I took 2 photographs, and then my camera died. So I went to a coffee shop where I got to hear some lobbyist for like a pro-democracy whatever. It sounded like the kind of people that got us into Iraq, but he was lobbying some like junior staffer like really hard over coffee at 8:30 a.m. And it's just like, the whole time I was sitting there thinking, man, this guy has like a circular briefcase. Does he have a hat in it? I need to know. It was just a circular bag. And it's just like, is this guy carrying around a hat in a bag in DC? Like, I need to know, because he's just wearing like a sport jacket. And I didn't have the heart to ask him because I didn't know who he was. But, yeah, I walked from there to the south side of the White House, which is completely cordoned off. You can't walk up to the fence anymore. Like, I was going to do the Pablo Escobar photo, just kind of like me standing there, but you can't do it anymore. They have it completely cordoned off. You have to go stand over in like the ellipse lawn path. So,
On the opposite side of the building?
no, okay, so the north side is like the one, it's still open, and
Yeah.
that's the one like right next to the fence. But the south side with the like round bit, you can't walk up to the fence anymore. You now have to be on the ellipse lawn path across the road and all that. So you can't hardly see it anymore.
What's the point of that being like one street down, but on the other end you can get right up to the fence still?
I don't know. I don't know what the security was for, because you'd figure they'd have the same kind of security around the Capitol, but you can just walk right up to it. Like, There's some police or whatever, but that's just, the police were just there to stop you from getting into the construction site because they're setting up for a graduation when I was there. So there's just like them setting up gigantic bandstands, and also they have like the Memorial Day concert series, I think. But I could have done my own personal January 6th there. Like, there was no security.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft. Well, it's a joke, whatever.
Yeah.
But point being is that the one that actually got invaded, like a couple years ago, had very little security, and the White House had a lot of security on one side. I don't understand it. But, yeah, then I walked over south to the Washington Monument. I walked up to that.
You did a Capitol tour, though.
Yeah, well, that was later. I'm doing this chronologically.
Oh, okay.
Did the Washington Monument. I looked at that. It's a lot bigger than you think. It's stone. I don't know. I was able to touch it. I walked down to the John Paul Jones Memorial because I thought it was the John Erickson Memorial, and it was not. And then I walked to the John Erickson Memorial by way of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. I don't know why there's a John Erickson Memorial, but if you listen to our series on the Monitor and the Merrimack, which is, I believe, our first series, then you know who that is.
Old heads remember.
Yeah. But yeah, did the Lincoln Memorial. It was cool, I guess. I've been there before. And then I walked over to the Capitol. I just walked in. They do tours. I thought that you had to have your representative. I didn't have a representative. I just kind of walked in, and then they just kind of put me in a tour. So I got to walk around the Capitol.
And you were telling me earlier that you were put in a tour group with foreigners and one sovereign citizen. Yeah,
there was a guy who, like, well, we were just standing around in the rotunda room for like 20 minutes. He was just asking the tour guide why he had to go through security, because according to the First Amendment, he should be allowed to go wherever he wants. And the tour guide was just like, I don't know, dude. I mean, I think they just want to make sure they know who you are.
I'm an intern.
Yeah. I mean, she was very nice. It was a very good tour, I thought. But, yeah, that was cool. It was the rotunda. Only one person brought up January 6th while we were in the rotunda. Just to ask if that was where that happened, and they're like, I mean, yes. And then we walked into, I believe it was Statuary Hall, right as Kevin McCarthy was coming out of his office and doing a press conference there. So I don't know. This episode's probably going to come out today, the 24th. So if you all saw the 22nd, that like Kevin McCarthy thing, the photos that are everywhere of him being interviewed about the debt ceiling limit, I wasn't able to find myself, but I'm in the background. I'm in that room.
Oh! Don't worry. He spent an hour before this podcast trying to find himself. We spent a lot of time on Getty.
I was gonna make it the photo for this episode, but if I could find it.
We did a deep dive into Getty Images website.
Yeah. So it's been a Where's Waldo for all the people who don't know what we look like, because this is an audio format. But it's like, look, I'm in this photo. Anyways. I didn't know at the time what they were talking about. I would have been more disruptive if I had, because if I get kicked out of the Capitol, who gives a shit? I'm not paying to be there. It's free.
Well, I mean, like, from my understanding, the only way you need to get kicked out of the Capitol is trying to overthrow the government. Like, you can just do anything you want in there, like steal portraits, a podium.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, genuinely, it's like, dude, I paid for all that. It's mine. I should be allowed to take it home with me if I want to.
But you told me that some people in your tour group didn't know who Kevin McCarthy was.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the whole half the room is just security and reporters, and a lot of the tour people were like, "Who's that? Like, who's that guy?" And the tour lady was like, "Oh, it's Kevin McCarthy." And like, "Oh, who's that? Oh, it's the Speaker of the House." "Oh, okay. Is he important?" And she was like, "I mean, he's third in line for the presidency." She's like, "Oh, okay. Is that good?" It's like, I mean, you know, it's only the line of secession for, like, you know, the most powerful country, and you know, we have a lot of nukes on the line. It's just like being there in the Capitol with probably one of the two most powerful people in the Capitol building, just about 20 feet away from you, and just having no clue who it is. Just like, him and like Chuck Schumer or something? Are those the two heads?
Yeah.
I know Kamala Harris is like the president of the Senate, but that's kind of like not really recognized.
And there's like the Senate pro tempore or whatever, but that's just the oldest person in the
Well,
Senate.
yeah, and that's just pretty much like a made-up position.
Yeah,
it's not in the Constitution.
It's an honorary position for old senators.
Yeah, for the old heads out there.
Yeah.
I did that. I walked 18 miles, I believe, that whole day.
And then you informed a couple from England that we have their cities in the United States as well.
Oh, well, yeah, I met a couple who took my photo out in front of the Capitol building, and I was just kind of like chatting with the lady. Well, actually, firefighters were taking their photo, and then I was like, well, you got the firefighters to take your photo, so take my photo. And they're like, okay. And I was talking to the lady, and she was like, oh, I'm from London. I'm not going to do a British accent. She was like, I'm from London, and he's from Birmingham. And I just informed her that we do, in fact, have one of those here in Alabama. And then I told her I'm from Kansas City, and she was just like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And it's like, okay, yeah.
And you also met an Irish couple as well.
Yeah, I was in the Supreme Court building, and there was an Irish couple, and they were, you were able to actually look into the chamber because there wasn't any, like, hearings in session or whatever, and they were just asking me, like, I'm not going to do my Irish accent either. They were just asking if they all have to sit in the chairs while the session is in order, and I'm like, yeah, there's only 9 of them. They all have to kind of be there. And then I did tell them that I don't think they all necessarily have to pay attention. And then they were like, oh, so, that's like a big commitment, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a lifelong, you're there for life. One of them died in office like 3 years ago. Like, you don't have to leave. You can just kind of show up and be like 98. Like, actually, I don't know how. I'm not going to make that Dianne Feinstein joke. I don't want it to age poorly.
She's 89, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, no. They were nice, though. Everything was kind of hot. It was like 85 degrees out. I had deposited my backpack in the National Gallery of Art because they have a cloakroom. So I didn't actually have any water for about 7 hours. Until I went in. You can just walk into the office buildings of the representatives and senators. There's they make you go through a metal detector, but you can just kind of walk in. So I went in there and I drank some water, and my representative was not in there because the House was in session, and I don't know why I didn't go to the Senate building because the Senate probably would have been there because they were not in session. But yeah.
But you also got another city off your checklist as well.
Charlotte? I had an hour layover in Charlotte.
Wait. Hold on. Your flight was undisclosed location in Maine to D.C., to Charlotte,
yes.
To Kansas City?
Yes. I had an hour layover in Charlotte, and then I had what was supposed to be an hour layover in... Wait, what did I just say? I have I have a 12-hour layover in D.C., an hour flight to Charlotte, and then what was supposed to be an hour layover in Charlotte, which turned into a 4-hour layover in Charlotte because the weather was bad in Miami where the plane was coming from. So I ended up getting back to KC at like 3 a.m. But yeah, no, I think the town you're thinking of is Boston, where we drove through.
Yeah, I was trying to bait more Boston talk.
I knew, that's why I went for Charlotte. I hadn't talked about it to you. Yeah, I went to Boston. We did the Freedom Trail. It was fun. We walked a bunch. You get deposited at the old Massachusetts State House and kind of just walk around. There was like an Israeli group protesting Israel there or something. I don't know. It was cool. We went to the Sam Adams Tap House, which is across the street from City Hall, which I didn't realize it was City Hall until I remembered a episode of a certain podcast we listened to where they were talking about like architecture in Boston or something. And it's just like, oh yeah, that giant hunk of concrete is in fact City Hall. Yeah, we went to the USS Constitution, which is the boat, which, okay, this is funny. My fiance, I kept saying, yeah, let's go visit the Constitution. I didn't say USS. So we get there and there's a giant boat and she's like, okay, so where's the Constitution? I'm like, oh, that's it. She's like, oh, I thought it was a piece of paper. 'Cause she thought we were going to see the Constitution, not the USS Constitution. Like, no, it's a boat. Speaking of, I would not have made it in the U.S. Navy in 1820 because I hit my head, I think, 8 times in that damn thing. You go down in the bottom thing, and I'm like having to crane my neck at a 90-degree angle. It's like probably 5 foot high, like ceilings. It was awful.
So your fiance fit fine.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you would have been fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, not all of us are giants
it's
who,
okay.
who roam the earth.
Speaking of that, so I had a 3-hour, 4-hour layover in Charlotte, and then I'm getting on. We're boarding the plane at like 1:20 a.m. And I'm like dead tired. I'm falling asleep. I'm watching Always Sunny and zoning off in the airport, and everybody else, is just miserable too. We get on the plane. We're flying. It's pitch black. Everybody's asleep. I fall asleep. I'm in the row seat. I get woken up when they come by asking if I want a Coke because my leg doesn't fit in the seat, and then I can't fall back asleep because the seat is too tiny. And I just, so I'm sitting here, and this is a audio medium. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to lean back, but my head doesn't meet the thing, so I have to like lean back at like a 90-degree angle facing up unless I scoot forward. But then my knees are hitting it. I can't get my feet under it, and I would have to go out into the row, which I'm going to get yelled at for. So it was like purgatory there for 2 hours on the airplane, dozing off, but just in like incredible pain whenever I would try to like. Anyways, that's my foray into the whole discourse that was happening about like plane seat sizes. Is I literally could not fall asleep because I didn't fit. So there's my 2 cents on that Twitter discourse that was going on like a week ago.
And you aren't obese. You're just a massive human.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm tall, but that's okay. You're not obese. You're just massive. You're gargantuan. It's like, Jesus Christ.
You're a very tall, jacked man.
Jacked?
Yeah, you got some muscle.
Oh, my fucking God, Matt. Anyways, yeah, Boston was cool. We also went to the West Point Museum, which was also cool. I went at your behest to go see Hermann Göring's staff.
They have it there.
They have his baton. They have his dagger. They have his pistol. They have the instrument of surrender that Japan signed, which it's like, okay, they signed that on a U.S. naval vessel. I feel like the Navy Museum should have that one. Similarly, they had an atomic bomb casing. Like it was an actual casing, not like a replica. It just didn't have the plutonium, which I was kind of wondering why the Army had that and not the like Air Force or
Well, it was
Navy.
the Army Air Corps at the time.
Yeah, but come on, it's like that was the Air Force. It's kind of like when the Baltimore Colts moved to Indianapolis. They got to keep the Colts history, and the Ravens were just their own thing, When the Army Air Corps moved to the Air Force, they got to keep the whole Air Corps thing because that's kind of their thing. I don't think the Army really gets to claim credit for the 8th Air Force or the 8th Air Corps bombing Dresden or whatever because I don't know, those planes.
Yeah, I guess so. I can see that point.
That's what I'm saying. But they did have a nuke. They had Washington's pistols. They had a pistol that Hitler used, I think, or had. It was gold. I don't know. I don't think it's the one he used to kill himself because I don't think we would have that. I think the Russians would have that.
Yeah,
I think it was just at the Eagle's Nest or something.
One of those many gifts that he got.
Yeah. I think it was just one of those things. It was one of those, if you believe in like evil people touching evil artifacts makes those artifacts evil. It was probably the closest concentration to that level of evil I've ever been to. So that's cool.
And that's why you fair dodged.
Yes, I did. Okay. We've been to Minneapolis. We've mentioned that on this podcast. Yeah. I went to Chicago. I mentioned that on this podcast. Both of those, you go into the metro station. There is a kiosk where you can pay for a fare. You can get
St. Louis as well. Same deal.
You can get a ticket or you can get a Metro card, right? Kansas City doesn't have that because we're based in Awesome, but those ones have that. We show up to Boston. We park next to the Museum of Fine Arts, which is where the subway becomes just kind of a center lane running streetcar, essentially, like light rail. And we're just kind of standing there and trying to figure out, okay, how do we pay for this thing? There's no kiosks anywhere. There's no anything. So we go into the museum, and I'd been Googling or whatever. It's like, okay, I thought that there was going to be a kiosk there because that's what it said. Is you can buy like a one-way paper ticket, and then you could just go downtown and pick up a Charlie card, which is their Metro card. That wasn't there, so I go into the museum. I'm like, hey, how do we use? And they're like, oh yeah, you just walk in, and there'll be like a place where you can pay for a fare on the train. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So we get on the train. No such thing exists. So we're just kind of standing there like, I guess we're just going to kind of be on here. And I was telling her about like, okay, we were in Minneapolis. They had this system. Nobody actually checked it. You didn't have to scan it. You just walked on. But every once in a while, the cops would show up and check it. We had the money for the fare. We were just like, well, if the cops show up, we'll just be like, yo, we're trying to buy this, but there's no fare there, which obviously it wasn't a problem because we just got off in downtown Boston and bought a Charlie card. But yeah, that's how we stole about $5 worth of train.
Yeah, I don't understand these systems. Like, clearly it's honor based for a lot of them in case you get caught, because Minnesota was also honor based because we did buy the cards. Like the actual tickets for like 6 hours or something.
Yeah.
And then we had to buy another set when we were leaving our event we were at because there was just a lot of police there.
Yeah,
but like, I think you could easily just ride most of that transit system.
I think most people, we talked about that at the time when we were in Minneapolis. I think that's almost just a tourist tax where if you don't know, you're like, oh, I have to buy this. But I feel like a lot of them just don't, because the only time we ever had that checked in Minneapolis was leaving the concert we were at, because they had like a whole kiosk set up, because obviously they've done that before because it's at the football stadium.
Yeah.
So they like know how to do it.
And they had like these like looked like temporary ticket booths basically set up.
Yeah. So they were making sure everybody bought a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just one of those things where it's like, other than that, you can, I think people definitely did just kind of hop on, hop off.
And I'm sure it was the same deal in St. Louis because, I mean, I went there with St. Louis natives who didn't really ride the metro system there too much because they seemed to not know exactly what was going on. I also didn't know what was going on because it was my first time riding it, but it worked basically the same where you bought the ticket, but then you had to get it validated with like a stamp or like a punch thing, and then you went down. But I saw a bunch of people just walk down without it. Yeah. And also some of our group didn't even validate the ticket, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah, I always find those weird where it's honor based. And then, like, so in Boston, you just scan it, get on the train, leave.
Mm-hmm.
But in DC, you scan it, get on the train, and then you have to scan yourself out too. So it's like, I don't know why we don't.
It's working like a Metro card where you have to like swipe at the turnstiles, right?
Yeah, but in Chicago, I believe, don't quote me on this, you scan it and then you get on and then you leave. I don't know why DC you have to scan on and scan off, but.
Well, I mean, that's probably to stop turnstile jumping, basically.
That's my guess, but the turnstiles were the same at both ends. Like, you go in the out one, so I could have jumped both of them. Like, it wouldn't have stopped me. It was just weird. Not like the ceiling to floor ones they have in, like, New York now or something like that. I don't remember.
Or the, like, hidden NYPD officers that are really obvious because it's just like, oh, why is there a white guy dressed in, like, street-ass clothes standing right there staring at the turnstiles.
Guy with wraparound sunglasses playing Candy Crush in the corner.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story from my parents and relatives who all grew up within the New York City area, and they used to have the subway tokens.
Ooh.
And I feel like that would be like more annoying, but also maybe a better system than like having to trust a card.
I feel like that would be better just because in the sense of you have kids or whatever, you can just give them a couple tokens. Or if you have family coming from out of town, it's like, oh, here, I got 30 tokens. Here, take like 2 so you can, go downtown and come back. Yeah. Whereas with the cards, it's like, okay, here, I have to like Venmo you money and then you load it onto your card. And like in Chicago, the Ventra card works for both the CTA, like the downtown, the elevated rail, and the MARC. I believe that's their regional rail system. And it works for the buses. So it's all on one card. In Boston, the Charlie card works for the subways and the buses. But then if you want to ride the commuter rail, I believe you have to buy a separate pass for that. And it has its own system. Because that's like the MTA rather than the whatever. I don't know. It's two different systems. But either way, they have the Metro card, but it doesn't work on some of the Metro lines. Some of those you have to, and like you register for the Charlie card, you can't link it to a commuter rail account. So it's just two different competing systems that needs to learn from Chicago and link it all under one card, so you can just buy one fare.
Or they all learn from Kansas City and just stop charging fares for stuff.
Apparently that's controversial, though. I don't know why, but apparently places other than KC are like, well, we actually have people, so you can't just not charge fares. And it's like, guys, just pay more in taxes, and then you don't have to buy fares.
Well, from my understanding, the Kansas City system is based off of a federal grant, and it will eventually be a financial issue coming up in the next few years. But I think that most of Kansas City has agreed that it's way better that the system's free than it is in what we like.
It's way more convenient, and it's more appealing to tourists and stuff, and it's ease of transit usage, so you don't have to like learn. Like us there in Boston, we're like, oh my god, how do you like, okay, the Charlie card, but then how do we load funds onto it, because it doesn't have an app, but the NTA has an app, but the NTA card is for the commuter, like regional rail, and you can't link it from there, so you have to go to a separate website to link it onto the actuals, and it's just like, okay, too much work.
Or maybe you just like, instead, if you want to charge fares, just do it as a day pass. So you just have to like go to a kiosk or an app once a day, and that covers you for all your rides that you need to do. And then in case a cop shows up, you just show, as long as it's dated for the today's date, because that's the best system to do, and have it all integrated into one system.
Like, yeah, the day passes are nice. I think in Chicago it was like $250 a year, or maybe 6 months for just unlimited rides. And that seems like the easiest. Basically an opt-in tax. So if you want to pay like the taxes, it's, set up as the fare, but you pay basically as much. And I guess that would make sense for like people who are like really pro not taking public transit and driving or whatever, is you can't say they're not paying into it, right? So they can't complain about improvements and stuff, even though they should be paying into it because it's a public utility. But basically it removes that argument against expanding the system or whatever, because they're not directly having to pay for it if they don't use it.
Yeah, because experiencing a bunch of different systems, having the exact change for a bus, stupid. Having a ticket that is based off of, that's only valid for X amount of hours, like 6 hours, like it was in Minneapolis, it's kind of dumb. Why is it not valid for the entire day? Honestly, for the St. Louis ride, I had no idea. I just bought a pass, just a little ticket, and then just got on. I don't know exactly, and got it validated with the stamp thing, but I don't know exactly how much that was for or whatever, and it didn't seem like there was any major enforcement going on at the time. Mm-hmm. But like that system in Boston sounds awful.
It's definitely the worst one I've ever been on, because like in DC, you could just, what I did, order the Smart Trip card and just have it shipped to your house. You get a one-day fare already loaded on it, and you just show up and use it. In Boston, it's like, okay, the cards only sold at these specific locations, and you have to go to there, and you have to go to like the Charlie card store to like do whatever to like get the customer service, but it's not open on the weekends, and it's just like, and like you're standing there at the kiosk, and it's like, okay, here's your 3 different systems, because you can buy a one-way pass for the MTA, right? Yeah. At the kiosk that is in the subway. So it's a completely different system, but you can buy a pass for it. But if you buy the pass for it, it's not going to work at the place you're actually at. You have to go to a separate station that's at that. And like they're not really linked. So if you want to ride Amtrak, you have to get off at the North Station, take transit to the South Station, and then you can continue on to DC or Philadelphia or wherever. And they're not linked.
From my understanding, it's kind of a similar thing with New York City, but also like a Metro card works for a lot more of the system than the Amtrak, and like regional rail around there as well, like Long Island Railroad or the Metro North.
And I've never been to New York, but so far of the towns I have been to, Chicago and KC are the 2 best, because KC, you don't pay for anything. And Chicago, it's all just, you put money on the card works. That's it. It works for everything. You can jump on a bus, whatever. And the day passes are like $10.
And flashback to a previous conversation from an old Clio Talk is, while you were doing this grand adventure, I went up to Omaha to see the buses for myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like 2 episodes ago.
And I mean, Omaha, I was surprised. I was doubting its like actual like viability as a weekend travel destination.
Which I need to know, what did you do? Because you know what I did when I was
Yeah.
there, and I think I talked about it on the show. But what did you do?
I went to a absolutely gorgeous downtown park that they have,
Okay.
Jean Lely, or something like that, and then I saw the buses. We weren't able to ride a bus, sadly, but I was able to see them in action, big old bendy buses, and they were moving very quickly. But we just did a lot of time in the old town or old market.
Yeah. Did you go to the phone booth?
I did go to the phone booth. I didn't go inside the phone booth,
Okay.
which is at the old Spaghetti Works.
Yes.
But
Mid restaurant, not that good.
Well, we went to a Mexican restaurant that was in a very nice location. It was kind of underground in like this weird like atrium area.
Probably would have been better than the Spaghetti Works.
It was okay. I've had better Mexican food.
Not surprised about that either. Did you go to the ice cream place that's down there?
No, but we were suggested to go. Someone suggested us go there, but we didn't have time.
That too. It was pretty good.
But we did go to a tiki bar that was also underground.
Oh,
There was a tiki bar in the old
nice.
market area. Highly recommend if you're in Omaha. I don't remember its name, but I mean, I'm
Stunning endorsement.
stunning endorsement. Don't remember its name, but do recommend its drinks. Also, I mean, it's Omaha. I don't think there's a lot of tiki bars in the old market area.
Probably not.
And then we went to we went to that park is absolutely stunning. Jean Lely or something like
I
that.
think we were over by it. I don't think we went to it.
Absolutely stunning.
It was also a lot colder when I went to Omaha, so it wasn't really kind of outdoor weather.
And that was the first public park that I have been to that has like clean, functioning, very normal public restrooms.
That's a plus.
Yeah, it was a plus.
I wasn't brave enough to go into the public restrooms at DC.
Yeah. So we also did the zoo because
Yeah, you have to do the zoo.
it's the zoo. But the orangutans weren't open because they were like changing up what was going on.
Did you get to see the iguanas though?
I did get to see an iguana, yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, but
Must have made your day.
I was just thinking, like, what do you do with the orangutans when you close their exhibit? Like, do they have them like working, building their new exhibit? Are they like giving them like power drills and stuff to build
you
it?
give them typewriters.
Yeah.
That's whenever they're not on show, they're forcing them to do the typewriter thing, you know? They're just like mashing away. It's like, you fuckers got to get Shakespeare written or we're not going to let you out of here.
they're just happy orangutans in a writing mill.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just forcing them to click clack away, you know?
Man. Yeah, so Omaha was good. It wasn't as grand of an adventure across the American Midwest and East Coast, but it was.
Look, you got to just like go out, you know? You don't do as many like I think this is the first trip you've gone on since we started this podcast, other than the Minneapolis with me.
Yeah.
You got to just go out more, dude.
I know. And I did see that you can rent benches. So if anyone's interested in renting a bench.
I did see that. I saw a Better Call Saul-esque lawyer bench while we were up there. I think somebody got a photo of it. I don't remember who, but I did remember that when you pointed out, like, oh yeah, we can rent benches. It's like I saw what you were talking about.
Yeah. But speaking of all of these great regional areas around Kansas City, wouldn't it be great if they were all connected via rail?
Yeah, it would be
so
great.
I didn't have to drive 3 hours up to Omaha, or you wouldn't have to drive across the country within a reasonable time. Well, there's some hope for the Kansas City area, at least, that there might be more regional rail for the area. This is from 41 Action News, our local news agency, about KCATA talks about study on inner city rail system.
That's the Kansas City Area Transit Authority.
Kansas City Area Transit Authority. Please make note of what that acronym is. Kansas City Area Transit Authority.
It's not Kansas City Transit Authority.
It's not Kansas City.
It's not Jackson County Transit Authority.
It's not Platte or Clay County, Missouri Transit Authority.
It's the Kansas City Area Transit Authority.
We'll get to that after we read the article. And this is from Brian Madrick. And the start of the article goes, Kansas City, Missouri. The Kansas City Area Transportation Authority has applied for a $500,000 federal grant to study a possible inner-city rail system for the Kansas City area. Open quote, this is a logical next step to begin to study how could we do rail throughout the region with the world looking at us, with people coming to Kansas City or from around the world who have experienced world-class transit, end quote, said Frank White III, president and CEO of KCATA. Wow, that's a point we've made on this podcast before.
It's incredible. We could do these stories.
Yeah, it's totally like in 2026, we're going to have the world's eyes on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like people, coming from Europe and other places like Chicago or wherever, are going to come here and be like, wow, I have to rent a car. This is terrific.
White said KCATA's grant process includes 3 steps, beginning with a study and planning, followed by examination of that study, and finished with implementation. Implementation is the hardest part of that. We have read a lot of their studies.
Yes. In fact, one that we want to do an episode on at some point that I'm not going to spoil, but I want to do an episode on it.
The transit leader told reporters even if he had the money, the metro-wide rail system wouldn't be ready in time for the World Cup in 2026, obviously.
We should just get like one of those Chinese firms that builds like the railroad tracks in like 2 weeks. We should just do that. Come on, guys, we can do it.
What if we make everyone like volunteer like 3 Saturdays in a row to build it?
Yeah, we just bring back the Works Project Administration. She's like, guys, okay, we're going to build a dam in 2 weeks. You got this, buddy. Hey, if we default, you never know. Maybe we'll need some random construction projects like how we got the Power and Light building.
Yeah. White pointed to transit systems like DART in Dallas or RTD in Denver as examples of what they're looking at. Under KCATA's proposal, the rail system would stretch east to west from Topeka to Independence and south to north from Olathe to KCI.
Which literally, before even connecting Arrowhead or the Truman Sports Complex, why haven't we connected KCI to the rail network?
Well, it's hopefully coming with this, but also with the Northland extension of the streetcar, there is possible thought that it could even reach up there.
It should. I mean, it's KCI brand new, isn't going anywhere. Truman Sports Complex might be. You never know. I mean, the Royals might move downtown. The Chiefs might move to Kansas. I don't know. They're more mobile. Why can't we? KCI makes the most sense for an expansion. I don't know.
Traveler Don Laster from Olathe liked the idea of a rail as an alternative to driving. Open quote, it would be a huge convenience for us because we wouldn't have to park and leave our car, Laster said. Open quote, we wouldn't have to deal with the traffic. We could just grab our bags and head up and relax on our way to our vacation or wherever we're going, end quote.
Which is a very good point of the KCI expansion is you don't have to pay for parking your car up there.
Yeah, and also, like, once again, the point that we've made before is you don't have to, you aren't forced to ride the rails.
Yes.
And highway maintenance dollars aren't going away. Though most highway maintenance dollars are actually subsidized by the federal government. Yeah. Literally, the highways will stay in the same condition they are. Actually, you'll get less traffic because people
less traffic, less wear and tear. And like in the case of KCI, if you have more people coming from Johnson County or Jackson County or Wyandotte County by rail, then there's more parking spaces available. That pickup line gets less backed up because more people just hop on the metro and go home. Traffic just improves in general when people don't have to drive.
Speaking of the pickup line, when you got picked up, did the person picking you up just park? Because when I have to pick up...
cell phone lot, and then I called them. They drove over and picked me up. I will say there was somebody... So it's a one-way, right? There's 2 lanes.
Yeah.
Trying to describe for audio listeners. There's 2 lanes. Somebody was parked in the left, in the middle, not even like next to the curb, in the middle, all the way on the far left. It goes left to right, so the right is like where you exit. They were just kind of parked in the middle of the road, not in their car.
Old habits die hard.
And it's like, guys, this isn't the old KCI. You can't park there. That's everybody like, oh well, the place is so poorly designed. The traffic is so bad. It's like it's because you're freaking parking in the pickup lane, guys. You can't do that.
And for people who don't understand, are struggling to understand, KCI's old airport, which we did talk about in a previous episode, this is a complete drastic tangent from what we were talking about.
Who cares?
They were 3 horseshoes that you used to be allowed to just park, and you could like wait, and there's tons of curb space. Now there's a normal amount of airport curb space. for compared to other airports, but people who are from Kansas City are struggling to come to terms with the fact that now there's a lot more flights coming out of KCI because we actually have a usable airport and there isn't that much curb space anymore compared to what we used to have.
Which I would like to lodge one complaint with the new airport. And this might be a TMI for anyone. When you're coming from DC and you've been in 86-degree weather and you have like horrific chafing going on, the Terminal 1, which is the first ones, walking that entire length with no moving walkway or anything sucks really hard.
But they have a moving walkway.
Yes, on the other terminal going north. I was at Terminal A on the very far, like, you think it's like a big T, and then there's another T on top of it.
It's an H.
Yes, I was at one of the ends of the H, and you have to walk down into the middle, and there's no moving walkway. There's only a moving walkway going, like, up and down the middle, which wasn't useful for me. So it's like great in theory, but when you're like not able to walk very easily because of you've been outside for 14 hours and sweating a lot, not so fun.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, my time's picking up people from the airport. I've just parked in the parking lot because it's $1.
Yeah.
Like the parking lot right next door is $1,
and it's like a 10-foot walk.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people have that many issues with this thing.
Anyway, back to the article. Eddie Russell from downtown KC also likes the idea of a rail system. Yes, Eddie, we're for you. I think it would be a much easier experience for me, Russell said. I wouldn't have to do the parking. I wouldn't have to pay more parking. Traveler Rahu Reddy of Overland Park said it is a good time for the area to embrace something new. We've got a new airport. Hopefully we can see some new ideas and ventures in the near future, Reddy said.
Why is he traveler? Why is he described as traveler?
Well, the other guy was scroll up, the guy from Olathe. Was also described as traveler.
That's weird. Anyways,
it's probably because they probably travel a lot for their work or whatever.
That makes sense, I guess. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, we agree with all of this. We need to probably just do an episode.
Probably.
We've already done one on like streetcars and highways. We probably just need to have like regional rail in Kansas City or something.
And it's on the list. We have the notebook.
I know. What we need to do is we need to make that episode, but make it and then like send it to people to like be like, here's why we need this, here's what this would benefit. Just have kind of like a comprehensive episode that all of you can share with your friends.
We need to make the episode while we're in the middle of a like actual major research series that we have hit an absolute stonewall on because we have kind of a script for.
Yeah, we're gonna come out with more of it. We just have to write. That's problem is that going out of town on a really long, arduous journey kind of impedes the writing process a little bit. Also, planning for said trip, but
I mean, I don't have an excuse. I've just been lazy.
Yeah, you have just been lazy, but it's okay. I have it too, but yeah, this would be transformative in a good way. The current I-69 expansion that we're talking about. $700 million. That never gets asked how we're going to pay for it. That never gets asked why we need that. This will definitely, if it goes forward at all, get criticized for, well, why are we paying for that? Well, that's a lot of money for rail. Wow. How much are we going to be paying for that? Wow. How can we afford that? Highway expansion never gets that. We've got major ones. The I-69 one, I don't even think that was up to public comment. This one's getting like giant articles for obvious reasons because it would actually be something new and good. But the highways never get that kind of scrutiny that this is going to get.
I'm excited for counter-protesting the protesters. I'm going to buy one of those megaphones. I'm going to call them fucking idiots.
This will be one thing where we genuinely will need everybody to like kind of get in favor of if this is going to pass. Like we will probably have to be more active in general, and I don't know, we'll have to get more people on like Twitter or something to actually genuinely kind of come out, because I don't know that many people from KC on like the urbanist or whatever the fuck Twitter, but they'll have to actually be somewhat supportive of Kansas City for the first time in their lives. Yeah.
And one issue that I've been seeing popping up, this is once again rehashing Reddit drama from stuff I've seen is people complaining that it doesn't give equal share to the Missouri side as it does to the Kansas side, because it would go to Topeka, but it doesn't go to Columbia, or doesn't go to St. Joseph, or doesn't go that deep into the Northland, the opposite way from KCI.
Yeah.
And my point to that of people making those comments is, I mean, this is a start. This connects a large portion of a regional population. There isn't that many large cities as close, well, medium-sized cities, as close as Lawrence and Topeka are on the opposite side of Kansas City on the Missouri side.
Yeah.
And connecting those, which are a 45-minute and like a little bit over an hour drive, would be way better to the overarching economy of the entire region than arguing over it and killing it because it doesn't go to St. Joseph or it doesn't go to Columbia, because those can come at another point if this is a success. Yeah. And we need to look at our streetcar as well, because that was once again a 1 mile long roller coaster up and down the street, which, by the way, the Kansas side did also help pay for.
Yes. The KCATA is paid into by Johnson County, and why the Kansas side, that's the Regional Transit Authority. So the Ride KC program, which the buses service the Kansas side, that's Kansas and Missouri both. Kansas pays, I think Johnson County pays like $100 million of their budget into the KCATA. So anybody critiquing that, Kansas pays for that program, that organization too. It's a Regional Transit Authority. It's like a 13, 17 county, I don't remember, transit authority. And
that's paid for this streetcar. And we need to not let weird chips on our shoulders and thinking that one side's getting a better deal than the other impede future growth. And we've been able to do it before. Kansas and Missouri were able to agree in order to pass the bi-state tax to repair Union Station over 20 years ago. That was a dump that was looking to get torn down. And we, both sides of the border, stood for something and got the funds to make it a absolute massive landmark for the city. We also pay in for making the streetcar and expanding that because it's a good project that's good for the city. Yeah. I do not want to hear some negs about it, because there's people who are paying into this system who don't have anything on their side of the state, and you're going to complain about the regional rail. This is an actual viable study that would be a boon to the economy of the entire region.
Which we talked about this in the Omaha episode, but letting perfect be the enemy of good. Okay, we can't snap our fingers and make a New York subway system out of thin air. The New York subway system did not spawn in 1850 or whenever looking like it does now. You start with one line. You start with whatever this study comes up with. You start with something. You start with the Kansas City streetcar, and then you work from there and expand it. Okay, it only goes to Manhattan, or it only goes to Topeka and Lawrence. We want it to go to Columbia. Good news. Once we build this, you can expand it. We can make it go to Columbia if you'd like that for be where it goes. At least we will have a system that goes somewhere. Lawrence is half the distance from Kansas City that Columbia is. It makes sense for it to go there. It's a major college in the area. You would get a lot of college students riding into KC on the weekends, spending money, paying for the system. You get a lot of families that want to visit their kids going to Lawrence. Graduation. When KU has graduation, you don't have to drive. All of a sudden, K7 isn't backed up every single day. You want to go to Topeka, your lawmakers, you want to go protest, all of a sudden, okay, K7 isn't as bad. You don't have to drive.
Also, it works both ways, because now people from Topeka are able to go to the Missouri side and go to downtown Kansas City and spend more money in Kansas City, or they're able to spend more time at the airport, or they're able to go to North Kansas City through the train system and then on the streetcar, which is hopefully going to expand up to North KC. And I'm a big fan of North KC. Armour Boulevard is a lot of fun, but there's people from outside of Kansas City that never get to go there or really be able to experience it unless they drive.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to them.
Yeah. That's the thing, is you can't get this immediately. We have to start somewhere. What they're talking about is a reasonable start. And if you're supportive of this, but you want it to go other places, please take that support and stay with it and don't kill it. It's kind of like the weed legalization in Missouri. You know, a lot of people were opposed to it because the bill didn't go far enough. But if those people that were opposed to it because it didn't go far enough voted against it because, well, I want to get a better bill, well, okay, you vote against it, weed is illegal, there you go. Cool. It's now you don't have what you want and weed is illegal. You know, all the people in prison for weed in the past aren't free and it's still illegal. Like, there you go. You've just killed both projects. Weed legalization passed. Now you can work on freeing the people who are in jail for it. You know, it's like you have it's like you got to take one step at a time. But if you choose not to take any steps, then okay, you're in the exact same spot as you started in. You haven't made any progress.
Also, if you're a stupid Toronto quote unquote transit expert and you think something like building any streetcar is dumb,
you're dumb.
You're dumb. Why am I rehashing our Twitter beef from like
because
3 weeks ago?
It's annoying.
It was annoying.
My Twitter beef from like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I see you in Kansas City, Rice, whatever, on Twitter, where I was saying it was the best in the Midwest, drunkenly, and then I deleted the tweet. Yeah, here you are in KC tweeting about a streetcar. See how the turntables turn, huh? Anyways, there you go. That's my Twitter beef.
Cool.
Anyways, follow us on Twitter if you want to. Clio History.
This has been a Clio Talk.
Yeah.
I've been Matt.
I've been RC.
You can follow us on Twitter at Clio History. You can email us at cliohistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can go ahead and like or share. Get this wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.